Hello, everybody. Today is Tuesday, October 14th. It is about 7:30 Eastern Standard Time here in East Tennessee. So let's jump right in. A lot going on. Today I had the Charlie Kirk getting the Medal of Freedom, as you know, which is the highest honor a civilian can get. I believe the last person Trump gave it to was Rush Limbaugh at the State of the Union address and so forth. So that was a nice ceremony today. So forth. So, so we still got the shutdown going on. Okay, they've had some of the show votes and everything like here. So, OMB Director Russ Vogt says the reductions in federal workforce will continue while they wait for the Democrats to reopen the government. It gets worse for Chuck Schumer by the day. Now, big fan of this. Just keep reducing the workforce. One of the problems that I have, and what I was really hoping out of the Trump administration and Congress, was restructuring of some of these agencies, possibly the streamlining of agencies, the combination of agencies, getting some of them rid of them altogether. Everything from the FBI. I'm a big believer of putting the FBI under the attorney generals so you don't have a centralized problem and so forth. Because what's going to happen is even if you do these reductions when the Democrats take power, again, and they will, it's just the natural cycle of things, they're just going to restack it. Okay, that's why, like, for example, the deportations are so important, as many as you can get, and make it harder and harder, increase the self-deportations, because they're just going to do the same thing they did again during the Biden administration. Okay, so unless you do these fundamental changes, then you're just delaying the inevitable. Okay, well, we want this to be transformative, not transitional, this kind of administration. So, but that's good that he's doing this. I mean, it's hard to hire people. You have to go through civil service process, so they won't be able to do it quickly. But I was hoping to see more of that. There has been internal structures of restructuring in these agencies. Just ask, Lee Zeldin in the EPA. I mean, he's been doing a really good job with that. So, my thoughts are that, while the shutdown's going, just keep taking advantage of it and keep doing what you can do. Now, the problem is soldiers, you saw the pictures, soldiers are on food stamp lines and whatever, okay? They're not getting paid. The air traffic controllers aren't getting paid. They will get back pay when this happens. But it's clearly political what the Democrats are doing. And with this whole subsidy thing, absurd, again, like I did in my last video, you're subsidizing this. And these are the extra credits that they put in 2021 on top of that. Right? This is to disguise the increase of premiums since Obamacare. And of course it is, because if you mush everybody together with no underwriting and everybody can do it, and then you have to mandate it, especially in the individual markets, you're going to get an increase premiums. End of story. Especially when you increase the Medicaid rolls. And the Medicaid rolls reimbursements are lower than private and even Medicare. Okay? So it's just games that they're doing. They're playing with their base. I do not believe that this is benefiting them at all, the Democrats, whatsoever. If anything, we are getting what we want. And I think more people realize, hey, my life is still going. You still got ICE agents going in Chicago right now. There's a whole shebang going on in Chicago right now with federal law enforcers being arrested by protesters as we speak. Okay, so clearly operations of the federal government continue, right? It's only a 15-20% shutdown of certain things, and they can prioritize certain funding. All right, so I agree. The Democrats are going on a political strategy here, which I don't believe is going to work. I can't say that it's going to backfire. I haven't seen enough data and polling to do that, plus contradictory polling. But definitely, I don't think it's helping them in any way, shape, or form. So that being said here, MTJ, Senate leadership could use the nuclear option and reopen the government. When Democrats are in power, they'll override the 60-vote rule without hesitation. We have a one-time opportunity with the House, Senate, and White House. Republicans need to govern and use the nuclear option. You can go back and forth on this one. I agree with her. The Democrats were willing to get rid of the nuclear option last time, and it was Manchin and Sinema that blocked it. So we know the intentions are there, right? The nuclear option started to go away the first time they moved the threshold for judges, the filibuster for judges. And then they've been adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. Republicans and Thune just made a rule change to make it easier to put nominees through, and they got through. So Thune finally got that. So, the mentality of the Democrats, she's correct. They're going to do it. So why not do it now and get something on board before they have a trifecta of power, meaning the House, Senate, and the presidency? So, but is there a chance that doesn't happen? Is that the wrong way to go? I don't think so. I think she's correct, because I said they've already tried to do it. But yeah, now the question is what could you even get through with that, right? Now she wants to get to open because she wants move on to other things. She wants to, again, let's discuss healthcare. Let's discuss what I was talking about just before in the last clip about agencies and whatever the next funding, right? Because that funding bill was only going to take it to, what was that? I think like November 30th. All right. Okay. This was the end because it was the end of the fiscal year, September 30th. So October 1st begins the new fiscal year for the federal government. Okay. It's the reason why they brought in labor. They wanted the labor statistics out. It wasn't a political thing or something like that, or some news that Trump thought these were going to be good numbers. They wanted the details because they have to, Social Security, which is not affected by the shutdown, because of the CPI number and adjustments, they have to have all these data. Okay, so that was just noise from the media and stuff saying that, whatever. But I think, yeah, let's change it. But what are the Republicans going to do with it? The House can barely pass a bill that really cuts spending and does fundamental changing because of these northeastern Republicans from New York and a couple from New Jersey, maybe not Van Drew as much, but in California, because they're blue states, they're clinging on to these solar subsidies and all these tax credits, and their SALT deduction was so important to them and whatever. They're useless. They're absolutely useless. Okay, so what are we getting out of the House? And then what are we getting out of the Senate? Right? We got Collins, we got Murkowski, we got a couple others. So again, what real changes are we going to get? Are we changing this just to reopen the government? If we're changing it just to reopen the government and getting rid of the filibuster rule and go to the nuclear option, then my thoughts are no. Let the Democrats cave and let this going and let Russ vote and do its job. And let's save some money in the process because, we're not issuing new debt, okay? Because we have to live off the income that is coming in. So, and they can prioritize it to a certain degree. So I'd rather have that power right now because that's more reliable than the slim majority in the House with these rhinos, and the same thing in the Senate to a degree. So that's it. If you're going to get the nuclear option to get in significant, substantive, transformative legislation, then let's go and do it. Because then we're getting something real for it. But I don't think just to reopen it, to go to the nuclear option, I wouldn't do that. Because there's still that slim 5, 6, 7% chance that the Democrats don't do it when they take power again. And maybe they take the House in 26, but don't take the Senate. So it doesn't even matter what they did. Or maybe they take the Senate and don't take the House. Okay, I think that option is unlikely. Okay, maybe they take the House in 28, but not the president. You don't know what's going to happen. So if you're going to do the nuclear option, do it for a reason. Don't just do it because they're going to do it. Okay, do it because they're going to do it anyway, and we're going to get something out of it. All right, because I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on that if it doesn't work. And plus, let's say the elections are bad in 26 to the Democrats and they finally change new leaderships. Maybe they shift to the right a little bit and they go back to the center, more like the Goldens or whatever's left of that. Who knows? Maybe the Democrat Socialists of America, Working Family Party types, whatever, get crushed in their primaries. You don't know what's going to happen. So unless you're going to make substantial changes ready to go, I wouldn't do the nuclear option until you knew it. Not just to open the federal government. That's it. Our soldiers are not going to starve to death. It's not going to happen. There's mess halls on these bases, and the ones who live off base, believe me, they're not going to starve to death. It's going to suck for a little bit, and I get that. Okay? and they will get backpacked because this is not going to go. My gut feeling, it's not going to Christmas, okay? Because it's just not going to happen that way. First of all, they're not going to. You know how much they want to rush out of town, whatever. So as we get close to Thanksgiving, I mean that's probably the longest this will go. So, by the way, that's my thoughts on the whole getting rid of the nuclear idea. But it's something to consider. Again, to me, it's a risk reward. All right. They were ready to try to get rid of it because they had the presidency under Biden, they had the House, and they had the Senate, and it was just Sinema Manchin who said no. And that was just enough to stop them from doing it. But if they don't have that power again, or there's another Sinema or another Manchin, they might try but not get it. So I'm not changing that rule unless we're going to get something good when we're actually getting certain things right now under the shutdown. So I don't think it's worth the risk. But yes, I think she's right. Their leadership in their party would do it if they could get something out of it, which they thought they did with the House, the Senate, prior to 2022. Okay, it was just two Democrats who blocked it. All right, so moving on. All right, we're going to hop right back into some foreign policy. All right, again, still no substantial government in in France still. I won't resign, says Macron, as Marine Le Pen turns the screw. French President Emmanuel Macron stated that he will not resign despite the threat of the collapse of the fourth minority government in the last 16 months, writes the Times. In his first response to calls for a resignation from both opponents and some members of his own centrist bloc, which is Ensemble, Macron blamed the political crisis on quarrelsome parties and the ambitions of other politicians seeking the presidency. Ambitions, unlike him, a Goldman Sachs executive globalist, okay, who's, went from the talking to Putin on the phone all the time to thinking, to wanting to put troops in NATO to, forming alliances with the hard left to prevent National Rally from getting in power, and this guy. And clearly, basically, with their parliaments, a third, a third, a third. A third the left bloc, a third the centrist bloc, and a third National Rally. Okay? With a 1-2-3 order, but they're close in there. And you got the Republicans in there, 60 seats, something like that. So these coalitions aren't working. And because the left bloc is not as globalist, okay, they go with National Rally for certain things. They voted together to throw out the last guy for the vote of no confidence. So this guy who's up in 27 is just going to hang around, have really no substantial government in power. So talk about a guy who's presidential ambitions. This guy's been in power for how long now? My God. Okay? It's unbelievable. All right? He is a disaster on their foreign policy front from their influences in North Africa and access to certain things that they had. That's half of it's gone away. I mean, the inflation is hitting them. They have energy problems. They have debt problems. Okay? And this guy's talking about presidential ambitions of other people. Okay? You've been in power for whatever. And because the establishment media and political establishment scares the crap out of people in National Rally, meanwhile, things that French people care about, like not raising the work week, not raising the retirement age, National Rally is actually in line with that, okay? Because they're more populist than they are conservative, although they are pretty conservative at the same time. But they're just not as corporatist as, some of the traditionals in the Republican Party there, which is the Republicans are like our moderate rhinos here, but I just think that's funny. So he it's just so hypocritical. What he should do is, now I say, if you're going to have a parliamentary election and call for a snap parliamentary election, what's going to happen is they're going to do strategic voting again, and you're going to get a similar composition. You'll be in the same boat. So what you need to do is really both. You need to have a snap presidential along with the a parliamentary election, okay? Because what that will do is, I think it would eliminate the chance of strategic voting, so the ending result will actually be more reflective of the true electorate. Plus, people will then, because you're voting for president, might hedge their vote. So you might get a Republican, which is the strength is in the Paris suburbs, might go and say, you know what? I don't really like National Rally. I agree with him on a lot of stuff. And there's a close race. So last time, while they might have went for Macron's party, maybe they'll go for the National Rally, but then vote for the Republican for president, or vice versa, or something to that effect. So I just it's not working. So go, so don't talk to me about democracy and freedoms and ambitions of presidential power when you're deadlocked for months. And even when you're in power, you couldn't get anything through anyway because of the composition of the parliament, which you orchestrated with a deal with the left bloc for strategic voting. So the hypocrisy is amazing. But I want to share with you, this was in the Times of London. All right, so anyway, moving on, all right? A little more European news. Visegrad leaders reject EU migration pact. The leaders of Slovakia, Hungary, Czech Republic get big victory, 51% of the vote, combined populist parties on the right in last week's election. And Poland, where we won the presidential election with Noraki, Robert Fico is Slovakia, Orban is Hungary, Babis is the new guy in the Czech Republic, and Noraki, as I just mentioned, is Poland, have spoken out together against Brussels' new EU immigration pact, calling it a dictate, not solidarity. Under the pact, EU countries would be forced to either accept relocated migrants or pay 20,000 euros per rejected migrant, a plan that critics say punishes nations for defending their own borders. Why are these countries in the European Union? What is the benefit? Even Babis, who was just elected in Czech Republic, says we pay EU 60 billion euros. For what? Czech Republic is not a rich country, you know what I mean? Like, it's middle of the road. It's not a big country. Like, what are they getting? It was supposed to be an economic bloc, benefit, trade, ease of travel, right? Imagine using a passport if you lived in the Northeast of the United States and you want to go to Connecticut, to Massachusetts, whatever. I mean, that's why they did some of these things. I get it. But, like, there is no benefit. And you're telling me that if these people can't reject it because it's going to be a strain on their social system, their healthcare system, their education system, composition, or maybe they'll have riots and crime like in the United Kingdom, Germany, and France. These countries don't want to do that. And they just do and they just do it and just tell their member states what to do. How is that democratic? It is not. There's no vote, there's no say. It's just, this is what we're doing and you have to do it. It's insane. But I'm glad they're trying to speak out. They're trying to come up with a combined alternative or something like this to that. Personally, just leave the EU. All these nations, Poland, form your own little bloc, your loosely bloc, so that this siphoning of power, just remember this one key fact. Van der Leyen, the commissioner of the European Union, is not elected. End of story. This is like the Bolshevik, the European Union is like Bolshevism. Or even like, fascism, the relationship between the corporation, the major corporation, the institutions are together, unelected. They get rid of all national identity, all national borders, and it is about their progressive ideology. That's Bolshevism. I don't know what else to call it. It's unbelievable. Like you can argue in some aspects, China doesn't even do that. Okay, and then they're fighting for democracy. It's insane. Okay, it's insane and it's hypocritical. It's just unbelievable. So moving on here. All right, so we got the peace deal going on and everything. So we'll get to that quickly. I'm not going to spend too much on it. Just a couple thoughts on it. But this is great. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer praises Trump peace deal. The surviving hostages are free. The bombardment of Gaza has stopped. And desperately needed aid is starting to enter as a result of the peace plan led by Trump. Kills Starmer to say that. But he has been praised in Europe, in the United, globally, by all ideological sides of the peace deal. Now the question is, will it last? Great people to go watch on that idea. McGregor and Mersheimer and others on the whatever. Can't. So here you go. Israel regret this. This is Larry Schweikert, the great historian. Though I know they were arm twisted to do it for peace deal. Israel releases more than 1,900 Palestinian prisoners, and they did. And the hostages, that was the deal. This is it. Certain facts cannot be ignored here. Now, I think this will hold for a while. You already saw a spokesman from Hamas saying we're not giving up our weapons, and Trump saying, we'll disarm them. What are you doing? And then you got, this prisoner deal, they're going to go there. And here's the deal. Israel, in my opinion, and it showed it by what I think was over the top aggressiveness that killed it. I don't know if you could call it a genocide, pseudo ethnic cleansing, because you're trying to push people out. That might be a better word. I've seen the videos, I've seen enough. I don't like the control Israel has. It's insane with this with this obsession in the United States. Okay, I guess it's the lobby. That's the only thing I can understand. The influences there and stories from Matt Gaetz, whatever. But I'm not really getting into that. But there are certain facts. Israel wants the Palestinians gone. Palestinians want the Israelis gone. Okay, how do you bridge that? I made the argument if you make a state, then when missiles fly from another state, you can't say it's an occupied territory pushing them out. Now they have a right to come back and say the hell with it. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're putting them on a more equal footing. So then Israel could say, well, they're still shooting missiles at us from that. And then, or whatever. My point is that and no one in the world could say, well, then the country of Palestine did attack them. And then you have nothing, no leg to stand on. So Israel can technically net benefit from that. Okay? And then they'd probably go back and push them out and do what they again. But if you think this problem is long-term solved, you don't. And now how many people have been killed? At least Palestinians who are going to seek revenge and want revenge as the ranks swell up. I don't know. The one idea is bringing in other countries. But again, other countries support the Palestinians for obvious reasons. So I just want to say that let's put the brakes on this and go like it's like the problem's solved. My gut's telling me it ain't. I think we'll be in a calm for a little bit, but we'll keep an eye and see how this goes. All right. This is from Idnez. This is a big Czech publication, but it was right in your face. So I thought I'd share it. Ukrainian defense is slowly collapsing. There are not enough people on the front, soldiers warn. More and more people are leaving. Fewer and fewer are returning. The defense of the armed forces of Ukraine is collapsing. The defense of the armed forces of Ukraine on the front lines is falling apart. The Russians are advancing along the entire front line, reports Idnez. Dangerously wide gaps are forming between the posts of Ukrainian fighters, and in some places the Ukrainians simply cannot maintain a unified defense. There is a catastrophic shortage of military personnel. We knew this. It's getting worse and worse. Right? It's why they were allowing 18 to 24-year-olds to finally leave Ukraine. Because I think after this line, they're like, we need some Ukrainian males in the country at the end of the day. You know, kind of a thing to protect them before they get hauled off the street like everything else. But that's what's going on. And we know this. You know, I can't even, I went on it last video. I'm not going to go on it. What you get, the Kellogg version and all the neocon globalist crap. It's not. It's right. And what do we got? So here's the big battlefield going on. This is Pokrovsk in the south. Here, this gray area, that's the city. Russians controlling the southern part of the city. Advances here, up to the right. This is that huge bulge from a month or two ago. Okay. The gold is basically Russian territory, unconfirmed. Believe me, they control this territory as well. They've taken this Mohammed village here. This square is down in here. How they're pushing west to close this area here. That's only going to force Iranians to move. Highway was just cut off, complete supply control. This is not good. And this blue area, if you go to the northwest, that's that Dnipropetrovsk province, where that's one of the areas where the Ukrainians are thin. And Russians actually pulled troops from this region to go west. Does that sound like someone who's lost 1.5 million? I don't know why Trump believes these things. It's unbelievable. I haven't even raised that many troops. The start of the SMO, the Russian military army was about 425. It's about 1.2 now. So based upon that statement, they're all dead. It's just, hello. So, you know, here's the big map. But you see just pressure. Remember, it's all farmland back up in here. Open territory with the Dnieper. And then up here to the northeast is Konstantinivka, small little city called Liman, to the northeast of that, and then Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. So after Pokrovsk, and those four I just mentioned, that's it. Donetsk is done. And then there's only like 20% left of Kherson and Zaporozhye. And simultaneously, they are increasing their gains and they're increasing their offensive operations in those two oblasts as well. and then including in Sumy and Kharkiv, which aren't even part of the original four oblasts that are officially part of the Russian Federation. Okay? This is what I said in the northern Donetsk area. All right? Here's a map. Okay? Lyman is right around in there on the south of here. As expected, Russia did not storm Lyman head on and began to bypass it from the north. It is quite possible that this settlement will be encircled and the main focus of efforts in the near future will become Slaviansk to this Lyman's north. Yeah, it looks like they're bypassing it. People thought they would, analysts, okay? And by bypassing it, it'll force Ukrainians to withdraw in disarray. And then they'll focus on Slaviansk for the bigger one, okay? And just over time, whatever's left will collapse. Now, in the Pokrovsk area, it's one little section, Ukraine has lost the Pokrovsk coal mine. At the moment, it was one of the largest and the most promising enterprises in Ukraine's coal industry. The loss of this deposit means a significant setback for the entire metallurgy sector of Ukraine. Well, in Pokrovsk. Another reason why Pokrovsk is doing it, because, I heard about the minerals deal and all that stuff. That was, a lot of the rare earths are already under Russian control, but they still have a lot of coal, oil, and gas in there. They're starting to lose those sections now. So the longer this goes on, the worse it is for Ukraine. And sending the Tomahawks is insane. First of all, they're not hypersonic. They can get shot down. Two, they can, or some models can, be nuclear tipped. I don't think the Russians think that we would ever do that, but we'll be directly involved doing it and it'll hit deep. Okay? Because we would have to operate them. Russia could counter NATO if we did this. It also would not alter the change of world. They will monitor these things if they got into the Ukrainian country, and they will try to hit them with their Iskanders, Lancets, whatever, take them out before they're even operational. All right, so that's my video. So basically, Ukraine battlefront, same thing's going. Even Western press, like that one article, is finally really just pointing out the reality. Okay, maybe they can tell the truth now that the populace in Czech Republic just won a big election. So we'll do that. We'll keep an eye out. We also got some polling coming out of New Jersey that looked good for Chittarelli. Apparently, this poll is saying that he's winning independents and more likely to vote. That would be good, considering in the Trump era, low props favor Trump. If that's the case, it's accurate. That could be really good, because if low props do come out for Chittarelli, maybe he could squeak out a 1 or 2 point victory. Maybe something to that effect. But we'll keep an eye on that. Richard Barra says basically he doesn't know, the details of that poll, whatever, in terms of what to think about it or its reliability. But we'll be following that race since it's only a few weeks away. We'll figure out what's going on with this China new, economic thing that Trump did today as well. And then we'll be following the continued situation with this Gaza peace deal and so forth, any new economic news that might come out and so forth, and whether we do the Tomahawk, stupid Tomahawk thing. Hopefully Trump won't do that and escalate to a further, because Trump's admitted it's escalatory to do it. So he admits, he knows the consequences and possible consequences of it. But still considering it, because he does want this, his sincerity to me is amazing. He does want it to end, but he's getting advised poorly on this. So we'll be following all that. So anyway, you can follow me on my X at Patriot Planner 1 and on my Getter at Patriot Planner. And if you like the video, please follow, like, and share. Thank you, and have a good week. I'll hope to put out another video Friday at some point. All right. Bye-bye.